Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
It's Monday, May 18th, 2026. I'm Greg Carr, sitting in for Roland. Here's what's coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Supreme Court, they've injected themselves again. They are instructing lower courts to revisit a pair of cases concerning whether private individuals and groups can sue to enforce a key provision of the Voting Rights Act that prohibits discriminatory voting practices. We'll be speaking with Georgia Congresswoman Nikema Williams about Governor Brian Kemp's decision to inject himself into the election cycle and call a special section to redraw the state's political maps ahead of the 2028 election. Keisha Lance Bottoms is running for Georgia governor. She's the front runner right now, and she'll join us to discuss her campaign. An ICE agent has been charged with several counts of assault related to a Minneapolis shooting incident involving 2 Venezuelan immigrants. We'll also show you how Houston honored the late Sheila Jackson Lee at the International Airport in Houston. And we have a recap of Saturday's All Roads Lead to the South rally. You definitely don't want to miss that. Black Star Network was the only network on the ground for this major convening. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Weeks after further weakening the Voting Rights Act in the absurd Louisiana versus Calais decision, the Supreme Court declined to address a legal question that could significantly limit the enforcement of the law's remaining protections for minority voters. In an unsigned order on Monday, the court announced that it is sending cases involving state legislative maps from Mississippi and North Dakota back to lower courts for consideration, taking into account its recent ruling, as I said, in Louisiana versus Calais. The landmark decision, issued in April, weakened the Voting Rights Act's protections against racial discrimination and redistricting, reigniting the congressional gerrymandering battle that began during Trump's presidency and potentially affected the upcoming 2026 midterm elections, which could help the Republicans regain control, or maintain rather control, of the House of Representatives. In the redistricting cases from Mississippi and North Carolina, Republican officials have advanced a novel argument, one that indeed flies in the face of decades of federal judicial opinion making, including the Supreme Court. Here's their argument: that private individuals and groups lack the right to sue under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and that only the U.S. Attorney General may do so. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act has primarily been enforced through lawsuits filed by voters and advocacy groups, which have brought hundreds of challenges over the decades to voting district maps and other election-related procedures. The Supreme Court's decision not to take up the question of what is known as a, quote, private right of action, end quote, under Section 2, received pushback from Justice Ketanji Onyeka Brown Jackson. She did, in fact, write separately, as she's been doing quite consistently over the arc of the last several months, with a particular foil being Justice Sam Alito, a nasty piece of work, white nationalist. In Justice Jackson's dissenting opinion on Monday's order, she pointed out that the court's ruling in the Calais case does not address the enforceability of Section 2 by private individuals and groups. So we're going to explore this, looking at the opinion now. And it's hot off the press. It just happened this afternoon. So we're going to explore it with our regular Monday folks. Our good brother, Dr. Omokongo Dibinga, Senior, Professional Lecturer, School of International Services, the American University, and author of Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racists. and Sister Thelma Anderson, the creator of the Public Opinion Court and author, Shut Up and Prosecute. Also, we've got Brother Scott Bolden, yes indeed, attorney and News Nation political contributor out of Washington, D.C., and fresh out of commencement on Sunday at Morehouse. I watched the whole thing. Brother Chris Paul gave a hell of a speech, and y'all got a bunch of those young men out again. Congratulations again on that.
The largest class in the history of Morehouse, 582, brother. I'm sorry, I had to jump in.
Really? That was I heard that, man. Looks like the new president is doing quite well, man. Y'all look good out there. And congratulations to Dean Lawrence Carter as well.
With the president. On Charles with the president, he's an Omega. But you know what? I voted for him.
Hey, man, you know we can't be mad at him. And also, congratulations to our brother and elder, the great Dean Lawrence Carter. I can't believe that he's trying to retire. I do not believe that Dean Carter is not going to be around that campus every day. So, Scott,
I told him on stage that he wasn't retiring. He kept trying to convince me that he was. I said, you ain't going away. You're just going to do something else.
There's no question about it. I mean, he can't spell it. So I'm saying that's one word as an academic. Yeah, I know I'm Chicago, know what I'm talking about. These Negroes can't spell retire, man. So let's, but Scott, let's start with you, brother. What do you make of these two rulings that came down today?
Well, you know, I keep telling my Republican friends that you're changing these laws to make it harder for black people to vote in southern states primarily. They've gutted Article 2, they gutted Article 5. The Chief Justice has never liked either one of them because they believe that we live in a colorblind society, and the Michael Jacksons and the Jesse Jacksons and Ketanji and Bob Johnson and Michael Jordan make the difference, and therefore. Well, obviously that's not the case, but when they overstep their bounds, I said the Democrats are coming because your White House is creating an environment where we're gonna have elections in 2026. We're gonna have elections in 2028 unless the White House cancels them, and I keep on and praying that they won't. But that the Democrats can not only the pendulum swings, the political pendulum, and many of the acts that they've occurred, like you can redistrict for political purposes, but not racial purposes. Well, the Democrats will be able to do the same thing when they get in the majority, and that's coming. Unless Republicans think that the Democrats are never going to be in a majority again. And so they're really hurting their own case here, short-term gain, not long-term fulfillment. And with that in mind, it's a race to the bottom regarding these redistricting seats and what have you. But at the same time, it really does directly hurt Republicans and Democrats. Democrats now, Republicans later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thelma, your thoughts on this? You down there in Texas, they may have overreached trying to get these new seats with this redistricting. But there's one case here, of course, the Dakota case is indigenous people, Native Americans, and they were just saying you diminished our ability, and the courts approved that new map, and here they've interfered. And then there's Mississippi, where we saw, of course, they weren't even asking for this relief. Your thoughts on these two cases?
It shows how untouched and how ignorant this particular Supreme Court is in doing what they are told to do for political purposes. When you look at the rulings from the lower courts, they stated that this was racial gerrymandering for the most part. And why would you send it back to the lower court after they've already made a decision that it's race on its face? So it shows a bunch of, I would say it's not cohesive. They don't have a cohesive plan. And when you don't have a cohesive plan and when you're only one dimensional, they are tunnel vision on us. They're not tunnel vision to widen their vision to see the actual law, because they don't care about the law. Because when you don't care about the law, because you have the power, you have the numbers, you don't have to care about the law. But the short-term gain for them is more beneficial for them. But the long-term gain, they're not paying attention to that, because what I've seen, even in Louisiana, when we have this ignorant governor, we have individuals showing up in bipartisan in the masses to do a massive recall on Jeff Crow Landry. That's what we call him. So I think it's not, they're not seeing the effects, but we're seeing it on the grounds when the people who said, we put you in that office, we can take you out. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I tell you, Dr. Omokongo, just looking at this and listening to Attorney Anderson, of course, it's absolutely right. The overreach is insane. Just as we were coming on the air, the news dropped about a couple hours ago, I guess earlier today, that they're trying to create a $1.8 billion, $1.776 billion slush fund, the Justice Department, to pay these January 6 rioters and others. But I'm thinking about this in the context of your work, on how to combat racism. And, just thinking about this, Jamie Raskin called it a slush fund. I heard him earlier on Democracy Now! Are they just, at this point, your colleague, of course, at American over there at the law school, are they overreaching now to the point where this is going to be diminishing returns, as Scott said? What's your opinion on these decisions and where it fits in the landscape?
Well, I think when we talk about, combating racists and combating racist stereotypes and why our work matters, it's important to call a thing. While so many people are calling this a slush fund and the like, we should also call it reparations. It is reparations for these white insurrectionists. That's exactly what Trump is trying to do. It's what he's always been wanting to do. And now he's created the means to do that. And so one of the things we have to be mindful of is calling a thing. And this is all connected. We're literally sitting here talking about the man who runs the government taking one department he's in charge of and suing the other department that he's in charge of, and they say, oh, no, I'll just take almost $2 billion to do what I want with it. And most people, the Republicans, of course, are not saying a thing. Many of these news outlets are barely saying a thing about it. So we have to be mindful of it. And then when you wrap it around back to this case as it relates to the Supreme Court, it's like Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was saying, it's like we should have, just resolved this case so that there's no ambiguity. And as one of our dear colleagues here, Thelma, likes to say, they're literally just playing in our faces. And in addition to their ignorance and their hypocrisy, they're also just feeling like they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. And the Trump administration is doing the same thing as well. My God, it's true, man. That actually, that's a profound way to read that, brother. Calling the thing a thing by calling it reparations for these racists, particularly those who attack the government. I think that's something you need to write about, brother. That's very that's very powerful. Yes, sir. This is Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, and we will be right back.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm TD Jakes, and you are watching the Black Star Network.
Over the weekend, thousands gathered for the All Roads Lead to the South rally in Alabama. It's quite something seeing folk come from Selma to Montgomery, and a lot of us were watching virtually. The day began, as I said, Saturday morning with hundreds gathering in Selma for a day of prayer, speeches, and demonstrations focused on voting rights and political representation. More than 60 years after Bloody Sunday, folks gathered at a historic Tabernacle Baptist Church before marching across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Now what we're about to see is a recap of what happened when All Roads Lead to the South. And again, kudos to the entire Black Star Network team, which not only was the only media on the ground to cover from pillar to post, but also lent footage to everybody else. So if you see some footage from this, it's coming from the Black Star Network. Again, another reason we have to support the network. Let's watch together.
To the south. You were with us earlier when we were inside the Tabernacle Baptist Church, which was one of the key organizing spaces here in Selma. Now we are with the clergy, activists, organizers, and folks who have come out as part of a massive mobilization in response to the nationwide attacks on voting rights and black representation.
All of this is a result of the Supreme Court's Louisiana versus Calais decision that completely is decimating black political power all across the South. Republicans in Alabama, this state, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in Florida, all across South Carolina, North Carolina already gerrymandered, Missouri already wiped out a black seat, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver. Of course, this all started when Donald Trump asked Republicans in Texas to get him 5 seats, wiped out 2 black seats in that state. What we are looking at is likely going to be the largest disenfranchisement of black political power since the period of Reconstruction. And so what we have to understand that the only way to respond to what these right-wing conservatives are doing is to have the largest black voter registration we've seen since the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
Let's get people engaged, get them out to vote. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does.
Well, first of all,
This is about the future of America, period. Because there is no democracy for some and not for others. We have echoes now of the post-Reconstruction period, where they are drawing maps with surgical precision, just like they did in other games in the post-Reconstruction period, to deny blacks the right to vote. That is a true hit to our democracy, and it's a further decline of our freedoms. So I owe a debt. I'm a descendant of a slave that's now serving in the Senate. I owe a debt. There are martyrs of the movement. The ground we walk on was watered with the tears and blood of our ancestors. This is a question. What will we do in our time to match their courage and match their strength?
And one thing I know to be true is that when we do not have a seat at the table, we are on the menu.
Suppress the votes, redraw the maps, dismantle the law. That's their entire playbook. They keep running the same play because they don't have another one.
I have to believe that the American people can be smarter than that. They haven't proven themselves yet, but they have to get smarter because they are picking your pockets by telling you to look at us.
Did you hear what I said? I said fuck decorum. Because decorum is erasure with a gavel. Be quiet, be small, be orderly while they destroy you. And if you dare raise your voice, you're out of order. Not the harm, not the policy, but you. Let's stop pretending that this is about Democrats and Republicans, because it's not. Say it plainly.
Ron DeSantis decided to arrest me. Say shame, 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 shame. Ron DeSantis decided to arrest me because I wanted to schedule a meeting with him about him deciding to draw unconstitutional and illegal maps. Say shame, 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 shame. The problem is politicians should not be deciding who their voters are. The voters should be choosing their representatives. And I'm going to end on this note. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. And all these red hats you see represent the organizers that have led us to this moment in our state. I am a daughter of the South. I am from Tennessee, the state that rushed, almost broke a leg to redraw the maps and make them more racist like they needed help. But let me tell y'all something. I didn't bring my black ass all the way to Alabama to talk about no goddamn maps. I didn't come all the way to Alabama to talk about no politicians. Because it's the same play that they've run before. After slavery ended and black people began building political power during Reconstruction, backlash came quickly. Laws were rewritten. Political systems were reshaped and structures of racial control were built to maintain political power, all of which we see happening today. I need us to be honest with ourselves for a minute because many of us, those systems never disappeared.
Dictator known as President Donald Trump thought he could silence us. We are here because they thought they could divide us into black and white, rich and poor, southern and northern. They thought they could stop a movement. You can rig a map, but you can't rig a movement. We are here because our ancestors marched on these streets, in these halls, in this building.
Last week we walked into the Tennessee Capitol in 2026, and when we walked out, it was pre-1965. We walked out of a Capitol Klan rally with Chief Grand Wizard Cameron Sexton and Governor Bill Lee. We stand in tradition to say that we're not going to let you stand in the doorways of our democracy. That we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. That they're waging war on black folks in the South. But we know how to stand up and fight back. That we come as the children of Fred Shuttlesworth and Diane Nash and John Lewis to say that if they come for one of us, they're coming for all of us. That we need a strategy of scorched earth, that we're going to fight these Confederates because we defeated them before and we'll defeat them today.
It's about fair representation. I say fair, you say representation. Fair.
States, and we are 28% of the vote, African Americans. That means 2 seats. What do I say? 2. You say seats. 2. Seats. 2. Seats. And we will settle for nothing less.
My father served in the state Senate here. In 1987, he had to go to jail for trying to remove the Confederate flag from this building behind me. That flag flew into the 90s. Other Confederate flags flew on this property through 2015. And in 2021, the legislature was back up to those same tricks, drawing congressional districts that discriminated against black people in how they drew them. Now, that's not just my word you have to take for that. 3 Republican-appointed judges, 2 by Donald Trump himself, made that determination.
And we know that when they come to decimate black political power, we stand together or we fall together. So this is one country, one destiny. So we are going to go out, we're going to mobilize, we're going to organize, we're going to vote because we know our lives depend on it.
I'm closing it out with the words of John Lewis. The last time he was on the bridge in Selma, Alabama, his body was riddled with cancer, but his voice was strong. He told us what we have to do. We must never give up. We must never give in. We must keep the faith.
My 9-year-old daughter and my 7-year-old son, thanks to the awful decision of these political hacks on the Supreme Court, my 9-year-old and my 7-year-old now have less voter protection than their dad did growing up at their age. And that makes me angry enough to show up again and again and again and again. Are you ready to fight? Prices of 22 million Americans, the same folk who stole your doctors are now trying to doctor the lines so you cannot hold them accountable. But we've got something for them. Come November, we're going to show up like we've never showed up before. I often say that a vote is a kind of prayer for the world we desire for ourselves and our children. And our prayers are strongest when we pray together.
The black church mobilizes itself. We got 70% in the black church. And so right now, because every Sunday we have a captive audience. My thing is, you're not a member of Friendship West if you don't have both a membership card and a voter registration card. We need to be running the city, running the county, running the school district, running the state. If we're not running on that level, then all of that back in the day was just talk. And as far as I'm concerned, it means nothing now.
There was no democracy in America until every human being born here was guaranteed and protected the right to vote. But we know what happened after those bus boycotts. And we know what happened on the trail to make sure that we got that legislation passed. Because with every expansion, there is an attempt at regression. This Supreme Court, under Justice Roberts, is part of that long history of regression and repression in America. What do we do in this moment? I feel helpless. What action can I take? It is time for the North to pull up to the South. It is time for New York to pull up to Alabama. It is time for all of us to come to Georgia, to Louisiana, to Tennessee, to Mississippi, and let them know exactly what they have uncorked with this injustice. They think they can draw us out of power. They do not know the sleeping giant that they just awakened. Because it is not a coincidence, and our whole...
Oh, I think it's so important, because you know what? People might not remember what you've said, people might not remember what you do, but they remember how you make them feel. And when we travel, and when we fight, and we stand up, people feel like someone's fighting for you. And that's why I'm out here. I'm not being performative. I'm not being a show horse. I want to be the pace horse, the person that paces the fight, the person that's out front. No matter what the cause is, we have to galvanize.
A more just America is possible, but only if we organize for it, only if we fight for it, only if we vote for it, and we will.
The system is working just like they designed it. We got to break it. We got to overwhelm it with votes so we can break what is happening. It's no coincidence that a Supreme Court decision will come down and the former Confederate states are reacting the way they are. Starting with Tennessee, Louisiana, right here in Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, now Georgia, South Carolina. We are in a moment, it's an inflection point where we have to move away from this big national conversation and get to local communities and organize in states. Because the fight is in those southern states, and the fight is where 55% of all black folks live. That's the former Confederate states.
We need to come out, be outside, show our faces, be together. When I stood in the well of the Supreme Court with the support of an amazing staff and amplified the voices of black Louisianans, I was trying to convince 9 justices that black people deserve an equally weighted vote, that black people's right to vote secures democracy for everyone. And they did not take the invitation. We need state voting rights acts across the country, like we just got passed in the state of Maryland, and we introduced in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. We need a revolution of democracy. Because our founder, 86 years ago, Thurgood Marshall, taught us one thing among many, and that is that this is our democracy.
And I need folks to understand, cynicism is not a strategy. That is not a strategy. Matter of fact, it keeps you from seeing a sense of hope. It keeps you from seeing what you got in your hand, what you can work with. It keeps you from seeing yourself as of builders of the future. So what we want is we want young folks in particular to shift from seeing yourselves just as citizens of this nation and start seeing yourselves as architects of the next nation.
When we come to protest, rally, or whatever you want to call them, I feel like this is an inflection point, right? I feel like a message was sent, many messages were sent. Some of the messages were sent to those who would try to oppress us and try to gerrymander us, and it's a message to them that we're not having it. But I also feel like it was kind of a message for ourselves, because basically what we're saying is we back, y'all. And we out here. We in these streets, and we're going to be in these streets until we get the wins and the justice that we deserve.
Is that if you have a black agenda, that means you are opposing those who are anti-black. And so for those of people who say, oh, my goodness, this is a Democratic gathering, no, this wasn't about a D or R, a donkey or an elephant or red or blue. It was about a B, black. And so for those folks who have an anti-black agenda, that's who we are against. And so if you look at what's happening here, when you look at it, and here's the deal, the state is being taken down, the chairs are being down, litter's not going to be picked up. Now it's upon you. But we ain't got to go back that far. 2008, 2012, more black people by percentage voted for Obama than white Americans. The first time in American history that happened. And there is no coincidence that 2008 and 2012 led to Shelby v. Holder, because they were angry with that black turnout. And there's been an attack on black voters and black political power ever since then. Y'all should be able to say, go here, go here. First week, second week, third week, fourth week. So we got to be informing people, educating people, enlightening people, and connecting the dots, because the assault on black America is real.
Tomorrow, on Tuesday, Malcolm X's birthday, 1 million black voters rising will hold a national kickoff call. You see the graphic there, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, virtual event. Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in a direct assault on black power, but black women are mobilizing and fighting back together. Black men are also mobilizing. Black people are mobilizing. Black women are leading tomorrow night, so make sure you take down that information and get that event link to participate in the call. And the following day in Mississippi, Mississippi's Day of Action will take place. That's Wednesday, the 20th, 10 a.m., beginning at 10 a.m. local time. And you see it there, this press conference following by the State of Voting Rights March, Rally for Our Representation, media briefing, and where do we go from here post-rally strategy session? Let's go back to our panel. I'm on, you know, as the young people, as the young people would say, Thelma, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you who. I'm not gonna lie. I was fired up listening to the young sister Sheila Johnson out of the Equity Alliance. I am with her 10 toes down. I don't care about no goddamn maps. I'm not worried about. And what Latasha said, we have moved from citizenship to nation building. I'm telling you, I'm ready to fight somebody right now. What any thoughts about what we just saw, Thelma? Can't hear you, sis. Hold up.
Well, she's on mute.
Maybe muted. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, because I know I hear you screaming, so I figure, oh, she must be on mute.
Yeah, you know, I'm ready because I'm amped up because I love the disruptors that are coming to the front. We have an opportunity to amend or avenge our ancestors for all of the hard work, the blood, the sweat, equity that they put for us to have the rights that we have today. So to see so many of, I would call the millennials, that are coming to the front and taking up space in order for us to occupy and show solidarity and stand in spaces that are going to afford us the right to go and continue to push so that our rights are not continuing to be fluctuated or affected. I'm the one person that everybody know I have no banter. When you come for us,
yes,
it's lights out. I'm coming for your neck. I ain't stopping at your neck, but I'm coming for your neck because one thing you and I do, we don't bother people. We mind our business. But when you come into our business and our business of our rights, we're going to show you better than we can tell you. Now, all y'all did was wake us up. Now, y'all gonna stay asleep because we're gonna put y'all to sleep with how we show up in numbers to take you out and put you back in your place. But that's the thing. We don't bother people. But this weekend showed them, hey, you nuck and we gonna buck.
I'm telling you. Woo, that's a word right there, Thelma. Thank you, sis. I tell you, Dr. Omokongo, man, it was very impressive because in less than a week's notice, man, they put this together and they had, as Thelma just said, intergenerational. You had a lot of representatives, and thank you, Carol, for sharing the lineup there, the run of show, because there were a couple of dozen state representatives there from the Alabama House, plaintiffs from Allen versus Milligan. The director of the Southern Poverty Law Center is there because, you know, they're under attack as well. Delegations from Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. Then a bunch of advocacy folks, people like Maya Wiley was there. We saw Janae Nelson there, who of course argued the Calais case before the Supreme Court, and she was there from the from the Legal Defense Fund, the Mississippi Legal Defense Fund. And it was so very impressive, brother. Your thoughts as not only a historian, but as a kind of cultural observer and commentator, what do you make of this convening, and how do you place this in the longer arc of our struggle?
Well, the quickness with which this came together, it also had me thinking of what many folks did, Roland, Angela Rye, many of us were a part of it as well. When we have that 24 hours of news coverage, you know, just talking about, you know, the state of America, state of Black America, you know, a few months ago, and that came together so quickly. It shows what happens when we take advantage of the power that we know we have, when we stop focusing on being in our own particular spaces and just come together. And so it was beautiful. It was emotional to watch. And the thing that I left thinking historically is that it has to be sustained. Montgomery bus boycott was sustained. Freedom riders sustained. You know, we have to, as the late great Dr. Joe Madison said, we can't be focusing on just moments. We have to be focused on the movements because that's what sacrifice is all about. And so this has to be sustained. I also want to give a particular shout out to what Representative AOC said, because when you look at her presence there, Ayanna Presley's presence there, Cory Booker, she says something that's very important. This just can't be folks in the South showing up. This has to be a nationwide thing. So where are our other leaders from across the country? Because we know in this country, they always start with Black people first because they know that America is comfortable with Black people suffering. And then once they move on from that, they go to every other group. So like she said, now was a time for the rest of the country to pull up and show up so we can all go up.
Indeed.
Yes.
Scott, you've seen a lot of these battles, brother. You've been in the middle of a lot of them. A lot of lawyers down there gathered on those steps at the Alabama State Capitol. and a lot of them your friends, and a lot of political operatives. We certainly heard the young people there, they ready to blow the whole thing up. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got the folks who are doing the inside fight. You've been outside and inside. What do you make of this convening, and what strategically do you think, how do we need to come together in this coalition and to be the most effective we can be, brother?
You know, there's a part of me, I agree with what everybody said. And I agree with the marching, and I agree with the rallies, and I agree with them putting it together in a several days' notice. I agree with everything your panelists have said. I agree with everything that was said in that 20-minute piece. But it don't matter. None of that matters, right? Because unless you can mobilize, educate millions of Black voters who are the least, the lost, and the left out, who are not the super voters, but the ones most affected by the gutting of Article 2 and Article 5 of the Voting Rights Act, and you make them feel the way we feel as educated voters. We've intellectualized our votes, but they don't have intellectual, they haven't intellectualized their votes. They're trying to make it day to day. And the inflation and economics and gas and just the day-to-day operations of the working class, working poor, even the middle class, who don't see votes making a difference, don't see elected officials making a difference. We got to convince them to vote like they've never done before. We got to get them to the polls, and we got to make a difference. That's a heavy lift for Black America. That's given the state of Black America, the health and economic disparities between our communities and other communities. That's a heavy, heavy lift. And my biggest concern is that that lift is too heavy. I hope I'm proven wrong, if you will. We need the courtrooms, and we need the courts to fight in the courts behind us. And we need to be on the streets, right? We need to register and educate, right? And deliver people. And corporations need to be financing these efforts. Because if you don't believe in registering people to vote, you don't believe in America. But it's a lot. And to be honest with you, our voting record doesn't say we're ready to vote like there's no tomorrow. Because the majority of African-American voters, at least based on research and data, we haven't voted like that since Barack Obama, right?
That's right.
Is this enough to get them out to vote?
That's right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not throwing water on the movement or the effort. I'm being cautious. I'm being cautious of this tale that we can turn this around and get Democrats in the House. I think we get Democrats in the House, maybe not the Senate, and then we have some political power to go with the street movement. We get that done, then we got a shot. Short of that, right, we got a good fight, but is it a light at the end of the tunnel? And Black America and our Black communities, those registered and unregistered, have to prove to us that the work that we're doing right now, everyone on that video, that it won't be work in vain. They got to step up. Not for us, not for the ones who are leading the fight. They got to step up for America so that our work, our collective work, is not in vain. And that's what I think about it when I see the rally. I'm all for it, right? But I'm cautiously optimistic about it because this is one where we can easily fail. We can fail each other. We got to get the right hook.
No question.
Those are my best thoughts.
No question, brother. And that's a necessary leavening. We, like you said, the rally is over. Now the work begins. That's a very, very important point, brother. Thank you, Scott. We're going to take a break right here. Oh, no, go ahead.
What does nuck and tuck mean? I missed that. What does nuck and tuck mean?
No, go on and help him again. Help him again.
If you buck.
If you buck is an Atlanta hymn. This is an Atlanta hymn. It's a Negro spiritual.
It is a Negro spiritual.
If you play with us, we gonna show you better than we can tell you. So don't nuck, which means don't make any false moves. And we ain't gonna have to give it to you in the back end. Yeah, so it's nuck if you buck is a Negro spiritual. From Atlanta.
It came from Atlanta, but it's countrywide though, wouldn't you say,
Yes,
Thelma?
it's
So
worldwide.
Scott, I'm sure you all have had some of those moments at the Capitol House and others where somebody came up in there trying to buck, and they got a nuck. So nuck if you buck. If you're gonna buck, I think our generation, Scott, might have said if you're feeling froggy, jump. So
but it ain't an opportunity.
Exactly. All right, y'all.
An opportunity.
Yes, sir. We'll be back in a moment. Back in.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
How you doing? I'm Mark Curry, and you're watching the Black Star Network. That's why I got these glasses on, because that black star is bright.
All right, coming up right now, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's take a moment to think about our recent ancestor, the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She gets honored, and in a moment, we'll be talking with Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's running for governor of Georgia. Your support's critical to what we do. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code in the bottom left-hand corner. You can also help us with credit cards. Use the same thing. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle at RolandSMartin.com. Rolling at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. If you're old school, and we know we have a lot of old school supporters by the mail that comes in here, you can send checks and money orders. Don't do like my mama used to do, which is fold up them bills in the paper, typing paper or something, and put it in. No, don't send the cash money through the mail. But the other things you can send them. Payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Stay with us in a moment. Oh, okay. So we'll continue. Let's look at this in Houston Terminal E at Bush Intercontinental Airport. Forgive me for cursing there. It's officially been renamed to honor late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Jackson Lee spent nearly 30 years in Congress representing Texas's 18th congressional district, and was well known in Houston and across the nation for her efforts to advance civil rights. She also led efforts to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. Also, she took up the mantle after the late John Conyers to push for the passage of H.R. 40, the reparations legislation. Very important figure. I was talking about her the other night with Brother Demario Solomon Simmons, one of our regular panelists here on Roland Martin and one of the Unfiltered and one of the real proponents for reparations out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Representative Jackson Lee's husband, Dr. Elwin Lee, thanked everyone who made the renaming possible.
Wow. To look out and see this crowd. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Y'all mind if I take a picture? I want to remember this. Wow. What a crowd. Listen, first of all, Jason's remarks were so great, I want to say ditto. Just fabulous. It's tough following Jason. I don't get to speak often, so I don't usually have to do it. I want to first thank everybody he thanked. Okay, not to belabor the point, but the committee that put this on. First of all, I want to thank the mayor. Every time I see him, I thank him for proactively, wasn't our idea. It was his idea to have Sheila lie and stay. It was his idea. And I thank the council members, but I know it still wouldn't happen without the mayor. So I want to thank him especially. We'd be riding along and get a call, and she'd see a problem, she'd say, stop, pull over, gotta go, gotta go. And she did that internationally. I think, I forget the congressperson's said on the floor of the House that they want a CODEL, a congressional trip abroad, and they got back here, and she got word that there was some problem going on. It was either India or Pakistan. She said, well, I gotta go. She said, you can't go. You can't go, that's not arranged. She said, that's all right, I'm just going on a regular flight. And she left to go right there. That was Sheila. And that's why it's so appropriate for this, her name to be on this international airport, because Sheila really was a global citizen and a global advocate. She really was. Here, take this. I don't know what to do with it. She really was. And, you know, I would be at home and holidays and income baskets and things from the president of this and the king of this and the prime minister of that. And I would just be in awe. I would literally be in awe. And she went to all these countries, but she didn't just go. She went with a purpose. That's right. She met people so that she could help people from our area. And when people had issues all over the world, they would call her, and she could get it done. She could get it done. I saw it. I mean, when Prime Minister started calling one, I won't name who it was, asking her on political issues, I said, wow, it's like that. And so she really did have it like that. She did. She didn't wear it on her sleeve, but she did. She helped people move around out of difficult situations. And so she was just literally unbelievable. And since her passing, people are constantly telling me stories after stories after stories. And my admiration and love and affection and just grows and grows at the greatness of Sheila Jackson Lee. So, in closing of my brief remarks, I say brief because my son is watching me. I know he's telling me, shut it down, Dad. Again, I want to thank all of you for this event, for all you did to help her all those years, and we are very appreciative. Thank you very much.
Beautiful words there. The ancient Egyptians would say good speech. Representative Jackson Lee joined the ancestors in July 2024, a little more than a month after announcing she had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Very highly appropriate to have that international week named for her. We will be right back after a brief break here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
This week at the Black Table, we discuss a place, an idea, a dream, and a reality that everybody on the planet should know about. A place called Mound Bayou.
What about black people creating their own country, not from the outside in, but from the inside out?
That's next on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Welcome back to the Black Star Network. It's election time around the country, and the Peach State is no different. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is the front runner on the Democratic side of the Georgia governor's race. She already has her eyes and sights set on the November election. Her competitors, of course, in Tuesday's Democratic primary hope she won't get enough votes to avoid a runoff in June. If she clinches the primary, she'll have to face one of these Republicans. You see them there, a bunch of money being shoveled in on the Republican side. And we are very happy that she joins us now, Keisha Lance Bottoms. Welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Sister Keisha, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Always, always. Saw a picture of you walking to the polls there, accompanied by two strapping, fine young men. I'm assuming those are two of your boys taking you to the polls.
One belongs to me, and one I is part of our extended family. So
Yes.
it's my son and his best friend Zayden, and you know how that is when you have 4 kids. Everybody else's kids are yours too.
Listen, I know that's right, and you've been doing that for a long time. It's good to see you face to face. We talked a couple of weeks ago on Sirius XM, Urban View Mornings. We talked about your new memoir, of course. You up that rough side of the mountain, and if y'all haven't read the book, you absolutely need to do it. But we are in the middle of the election battle. Give us an update. Or what's the lay of the land now? Early voting's over. Election day's tomorrow. Where are we in the process?
So it's been very encouraging to see that we've already passed early voting record numbers for turnout. Early voting ended on Friday, and as you know, that's in spite of all the obstacles that have been put in the way, from removing drop boxes to reducing the time of early voting, to reducing the number of weekends that people can early vote, et cetera. And what I feel on the ground is that people are realizing the power of their votes, that their voices are reflected through their votes. So it's just been this very quiet determination, steady drumbeat of people showing up to vote. We're going to see what happens on the election day tomorrow. But it's most encouraging in the state because, as you may recall, back in November, we flipped 2 statewide seats, Public Service Commission seats, one electing an African-American woman. First time that's happened in this state in a very long time. So I'm encouraged. We've been moving around the state. We were in Statesboro, Waycross, Valdosta, Columbus, Macon, Augusta, Albany, Gay, Georgia, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some places, but it's been great to be on the road, and just, we're excited about tomorrow.
It is quite striking, Madam Mayor. I mean, looking at, as you say, the numbers, 57% of the ballots cast so far have been in Democratic primary, just reading from the Times article I was mentioning. And as you said, it's outpaced the 2022 primary election by almost 20%, by a fifth. And, we're talking about all this gerrymandering stuff. We certainly see Governor Kemp trying to inject himself in this thing on the Republican side, at least when it comes to the Senate seat. But the numbers do seem very encouraging. I mean, we've been talking a lot about gerrymander, but for folks who I'm assuming everybody knows, but then again, I've had to answer a few questions over the last couple of weeks by people who might not be clear about this. You mentioned the Public Service Commission there. This is not, gerrymandering doesn't affect this race, right? This is a statewide race. Why are you optimistic that this continued surge, this surge that we see in Georgia, is really going to continue the momentum that we saw with Stacey Abrams, for example, in 2018, when she came very close? And how encouraged are you by these early numbers, and what does that tell you about this kind of energy that is coursing through the South, but certainly there in Georgia?
Well, I'm encouraged because, of course, we want the momentum going into November. It is our hope and our prayer that we make it through tomorrow without a runoff. I was flipping online, scrolling online at our local newspaper. I see that the billionaire Rick Jackson's running ads against me. So he's already said he's going to put everything he has to try and stop me. So we don't want Republicans to have the opportunity to interfere in our primary. And then we've got to be as strong as possible going into November. So the earlier we consolidate, the better for all of us on the Democratic side. And just as it relates to even these maps, there are a lot of people who don't understand the technicalities of what's happening with these maps across the country. My daughter said to me, my 15-year-old daughter, that she didn't understand everything that was happening. And I said, well, if you don't understand it, a lot of people don't. So, we've tried to talk to people in the most basic terms as possible so they will understand what it means for their day-to-day lives. We released a voting plan last week named after Congressman John Lewis, who was my congressman, Senator Leroy Johnson, who was the first Black senator in Georgia to sit after Reconstruction, to be seated after Reconstruction. In that, I've talked about vetoing maps that dilute minority participation, also extending the ability for people to present legitimate identification in order to be able to register to vote, to have same day voter registration in this state, and a number of other things that we think can help us strengthen the right to vote in this state. But at the end of the day, Republicans are going back in the session in Georgia. Governor Kemp has called a special session. It's not a whole lot that we can do to stop what will happen this year. But at the end of the day, the power is in our vote. And there is an opportunity for any changes that come this year to be changed come January, when, God willing, I'm elected governor and we're able to flip some of these House and Senate seats in our state.
Yes, ma'am. Turnout so critical to that. I want to ask you to comment on any of the folks that are running against you, but I will note that one of the people who's trying to make a case in the Democratic primary is actually a Republican. Who he said, because as a former Republican, but Jeff Duncan. But we're starting to see this around the country. Some of these folks trying to maybe think maybe they're going to get ahead of what apparently is going to be a very heavy anti-Republican vote across the country, either trying to run as independents or switch to Democrats. Is that a strategy that you think is going to be a winning strategy as people are trying to avoid what might be a wipeout across the country?
We say that we are the party, a big tent party, but it doesn't mean that you now need to come over and lead us. Right. Many of us are lifelong Democrats, myself included. So because you got kicked out of your party, you now believe that you can lead and should lead our party. The voters will make their own decisions on that. But especially when you were a part of the party that's responsible for so many of the things that we're running against right now.
Yes,
there were Republicans in this state who would not expand Medicaid in this state. Republicans in this state changed our access to voting rights. Republicans in this state created the 6-week abortion ban in the state. So, welcome to the cookout, but I don't need you to man the grill right now.
Oh, as young people say, that's a bar. In fact, that's a bar right there. Let's open it up, if you don't mind, Sister Lance Bottoms, to our panel to ask you a few questions while we have you for a minute. Dr. Omekongo Dibinga, you first with us, Sister Keisha Lance Bottoms.
Well, first of all, Mayor Bottoms, congratulations on your continued success and just your incredible career devoted to the community. We hear so much in these elections that the word of the day is affordability. But I would like to know, what other issues are you hearing about as you're talking to residents of Georgia?
Yeah, affordability is that number one issue that we're hearing. Also, again, this refusal to expand Medicaid. In the state, 9 rural hospitals have closed in Georgia. So people are really facing a lot of challenges related to access to healthcare. Even when I was in Augusta yesterday, there are plans to roll back some of the beds at one of the bases in Augusta. So that's top of mind. Something I'm hearing from young people quite a bit, access to mental health services or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. Many young people are very cognizant and comfortable talking about their challenges with mental health and saying, I'm not okay. The slogan, it's okay not to be okay. They're asking about that. How can I access mental health services for myself? How can I do it for family members? So, and literacy, that's another issue. Quality schools in this state, and just support for caregivers. That comes up quite a bit as well, with so many people in the sandwich generation caring for younger kids, caring for aging parents, and not having access to support services that can make things a bit easier for them is another issue that comes up quite a bit.
Thank you, Omekongo. Sister Thelma Anderson, please, with Keisha Lance Bottoms. Any questions?
Good evening, Mayor Bottoms. I'm super excited to be able to ask you a question because let me tell you, I was in them comments fighting for my life making sure people don't come for you last week because I had to get them together and I got them together. But I wanted to ask you specifically, we're talking about community and the issues that individuals are facing, especially the voters, with affordability, school, mental health, safety, elderly. After being mayor of Atlanta and then going to Washington, what made you decide, based on the frustration of your community, to run for governor? Because we know that when it comes to African-American women, they think this is a big feat for us because they don't want us to be in power. But what made you become selfless in saying, I want to run for governor, I want to be the change maker, I want to show my community that we can get back on track?
Thank you so much for your question, and thank you for going to bat for me. I really appreciate you. Thank you. And I've said I don't mind the criticism, but don't lie on my name. I do mind the lie, so I appreciate your helping to straighten the record out. For me, it really was about the day after the presidential election and praying about what I would be called to do in this season. And I was just looking in my journal this morning at some notes that I had written November 24, where I asked God for guidance on what I would do in this season. Did I need to go back into elected office to make a difference? Could I continue to be comfortable, or was I called to step back into the ring? And obviously the answer was that I was called to step back into the ring. I know what it's like to have to stand up and fight against this administration. I know how important leadership is in tough times. So that's the reason I'm back in the ring. Life was comfortable in many ways after I left the White House and had entered the private sector. But I want to be able to look my family and my community in the eyes and say, in this moment, I did everything I possibly knew to do to try and make a difference in the fight on behalf of the people who often don't have a voice. And that's why I'm running.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Thelma. And for those who want to read more about how you really work through this with your family community, I really do encourage you all to get the rough side of the mountain because you're very open and candid about how you've worked through those politics. I'm deeply appreciative. Brother Bolden, Scott Bolden with Keisha Lance Bottoms, please.
Hey, Mayor Bottoms. Good to see you and talk with you. I have to declare that I'm a contributor to her campaign more than once, and will probably contribute again. And I'll claim that the Democratic primary will be yours, at least as a political prognosticator. But my question is, once you get the Democratic nomination, Georgia is still seen as a red state. You're going to be running against a Republican. It's been decades since there was a Democratic governor of Georgia. And so can you talk about the three things that make you believe and your team believe that you can win this gubernatorial race against a Republican nominee that arguably will be running in a reddish purple state? How's that? I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Scott. As always, I'm appreciative of your support, and for everybody who's not in Georgia, you can still support from afar.
That's right.
I'll tell you, Scott, what we know is that right now, Georgia is solidly purple. It's the reason we currently have a Republican governor, and we have 2 senators who are Democrats. So I would put us more in the purple category, trending blue. I mentioned the encouraging election results from last November, where we elected 2 Democrats statewide for the Public Service Commission. That's usually a race that doesn't get a lot of attention. There was a huge turnout then. And it goes without saying, I know that I am the best candidate. But my personal credentials aside, we're looking at the data and we're looking at the way the state is trending. It's the reason that Republicans have gone into overtime to try and curb out access to the right to vote. We know that when we're seeing record turnout across the country, we've already seen it in Georgia for early voting, that we can anticipate that really is an indication of things to come. Donald Trump's a great motivator for people, not just on the Republican side, but also on the Democratic side. People realize what's at stake when he's in the White House, and it tends to up our turnout on the Democratic side.
So you want Donald Trump to come campaign in October, November of this year in your gubernatorial race. Does that help you or hurt you, in your opinion?
Well, he's already here. He is already running
okay.
that he filmed in the Oval Office supporting Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. So for those who may not be aware, on the Republican side, Burt Jones is the sitting lieutenant governor, election denier, all the things that Trump loves. He was the presumptive nominee until this guy, this billionaire, Rick Jackson, came out of nowhere, got in, and it really has upended the primary on the Republican side. So they are now battling it out for Trump's favor and words of affirmation. But Trump's already given it to Burt Jones. All of his ads are featuring Donald Trump and how he's already endorsed him. So his presence is already here.
Wonderful. Right, I got you. All the best.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you.
Madam Mayor,
you should celebrate with us tomorrow too.
No, that's right.
I just left Atlanta. I was down there for a week with Morehouse's graduation and some board work we were doing. But I got folks, me and Tiffany, for you in DC.
That's all right. Madam Mayor, bright and early, the polls open in the morning. Any last words for those who are out there who are registered to vote and who didn't early vote and who need to get off that couch, who are watching tonight? Any last word for those folks who are getting ready for tomorrow?
For all of us in Georgia, we should be reminded the difference that this state made in the country. We call ourselves the cradle of the civil rights movement in America, and the movement is now upon our generation. We thought so many of these battles had been fought and won, and here they are at our doorsteps again. So I just ask people, don't give up on this democracy. And a huge part of that is showing up to vote. Casting your vote. I am not a perfect candidate. I am not a perfect person, but I can tell you I'm going to get up each and every day fighting on behalf of our communities and people across this state. And I hope that matters to people, especially at this time when so many people are experiencing financial hardships, experiencing uncertainty just about the future in general. There's an opportunity for us to try and right many of these wrongs. And I just ask for people to support me as I try and lead the effort on behalf of people across this state to do that.
Indeed. Everybody get there and vote. I tell you, Madam Mayor, according to the Christians, there was only one who was perfect, and even he had that moment of doubt up there at Golgotha. So let's just be crystal clear about that. I don't trust no politician to say that they're perfect. So Keisha Lance Bottoms, 60th Mayor of Atlanta, one-time judge, attorney, public servant at every level of government, and running to be the governor of her home state of Georgia. Thank you for joining us tonight on Black Star Network.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. We'll be back at a moment here at the Black Star Network, and we'll continue.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, And I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
What's up? It's Talib Kweli. I'm CEO. This is the Black Star Network.
All right. We thank former Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms for joining us. And this week, in addition to Georgia, there are several other states holding primary elections. We just discussed, as we just heard, Georgia's gubernatorial race, but there are other important races to watch as well. Georgia is one of the most crucial battlegrounds where high-stakes contests for both the House and Senate could significantly impact key midterm elections. Voters in Alabama, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, and Pennsylvania also head to the polls tomorrow. The results may also serve as a measure of Trump's influence over the Republican Party, especially following a Louisiana primary over the weekend that highlighted the risks of challenging him. In Louisiana, kind of nasty piece of work there. Senator Bill Cassidy, remember him, the medical doctor who said he shouldn't have voted for Bobby Kennedy Jr., but you were standing up and saluting the MAGA flag, weren't you, Senator? Well, he lost the GOP Senate primary to a Trump-backed candidate after voting against Trump during his second impeachment. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. We see Thomas Massey under attack in Kentucky as Donald Trump continues to rally the white nationalist party. Thelma, these primaries that are going on all over the country, particularly given what we just saw out of Alabama and listening there to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, you know, if we get out there and participate, do you have some hope that perhaps we can have some kind of impact on what is clearly an all-hands-on-deck moment for the white nationalists of the Republican Party?
Absolutely. I, without a shadow of a doubt, think that we will have the impact that we deserve by mobilizing and making sure that we get to the polls. When I speak specifically of Louisiana, and even though this is not an election, when we're talking about the recall, when I'm seeing bipartisan, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, all nationalities showing up to sign a recall petition because they are sick and tired of being sick and tired. That shows me that we can get to the polls and also vote these people out, because this is not what democracy is. This is not what this country stands for today outside of who is in the White House. We don't stand for that. So when I'm looking at these primaries and having hope, yes, I have hope. But with hope, we got to do the work. We got to be the voices behind the initiatives, pushing the stories, pushing the candidates, pushing the information so that individuals can be informed, educated, and equipped when we are going to the polls to make sure that we are voting the right people in and the wrong people have to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Omekongo, yeah, it's Alabama's lined up, and people just really seem to be, too many people just conceding that these are red states. They're not red states. They're under-organized states, and certainly now there's this talk around the country, people saying we shouldn't be sending our children to these SEC schools to play sports. It's very interesting how the climate is changing. How, in your mind, is tomorrow's primary, how do those primaries play into this talk that is rising in the country that we absolutely have to get involved in this?
Well, Roland says on the show regularly that if we vote our numbers, so many of these states that are red might flip blue, but at least would go purple. And so it's really a numbers game as it relates to us. You know, the great Bayard Rustin said, you know, we protested because we didn't have the right to vote. Once you have the right to vote, you don't need to protest. And so we kind of going off of what was said earlier, from Scott about, his skepticism or concern about whether these rallies will do anything. It's supposed to be both and, not either or. We're supposed to get out the protest to motivate more people to get out and vote. And we have to be able to see this now. Yes, there are a lot of disaffected white people and people upset with Trump and, him saying, I don't care about people's finances and the like. But we have seen time and time again that many white people will not vote Democrat and won't vote for Black people. And so we have to rely on us. And connecting with what you're talking about, this national movement, about where we are right now, talking about the players in SEC schools, my issue with that is, I agree that should be an issue, but why just the Black athletes? Like, why do we have to just put it on them? What about the white athletes? What about the indigenous one? And on top of that, why just the college athletes? What about the professionals? Anyone hollering at the Memphis Grizzlies about why they playing there? What about entertainers? What, these big time musicians? What about conferences? This needs to be an all hands on deck approach. I mean, we can go back to Marlon Brando making, anti-racist comments about anti-racism way back in the day, sending an indigenous woman to accept awards for him. I mean, we can't just expect only Black people to stand up in this moment. That's not how we got here. Of course, we have always been the leaders of this fight, but other people have to get involved as partners. And so I think it's not fair to just put it on these Black college athletes. Everybody should have skin in the game as it relates to protesting these schools, including the fans that go to the games and support them as well.
Absolutely. I'm glad you raised that. The National Bar Association is meeting in July in Nashville, my hometown. So they may not be able to cancel that, but there ought to be some hell raised in Music City in the summer. I mean, that's a very expansive read of that, and I think that's dead on the money.
Yes.
So you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network, and we will be right back.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not. Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook, that's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back to the Black Star Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered. We are going to stay in the Peach State, stay in the South in general, and Georgia in particular. And now we are going to turn our attention to the term-limited white nationalist governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. He's called a special legislative session for next month to redraw the state's electoral maps and address voting system issues following, well, what he calls voting system issues, following the Supreme Court's Calais decision, which we've talked about a couple of times tonight, which limited the use of race as a predominant factor in redistricting and effectively altered protections under the Voting Rights Act. The session is scheduled to begin on June 17th, one day after the scheduled runoffs for the May 19th primary election. Kemp says any new maps will not affect the 2026 elections, but will be implemented for the 2028 election cycle. We are very privileged and happy to be joined this evening by Georgia Congresswoman Nikema Williams to discuss this. Congresswoman Williams, welcome back to the Black Star Network and Roland Martin Unfiltered. How are you doing?
I
I want to say good, but with all of the stuff going on down here, I want to tell you the truth because it ain't good right now. I'm here and I'm glad to be in community with you.
No question. Ain't nobody mad, Congresswoman Williams. Listen, with all of the ancestors running through your spirit, I don't think they're ready for what you got.
Right, I got to come and speak the truth tonight.
No question. And I see up over your left shoulder that collector's edition of the Montgomery story, that comic book. It took me forever to get that Martin Luther King comic book. So I know you got all hands on deck over there over your shoulder.
Hands on deck. Like it's a lot of support in this little office right here. So they don't know who they're coming for when they come for me.
They absolutely do not. Help us understand what's going on there in Georgia and how this is playing against this larger national map, as the Republicans seem hell-bent and intent on trying to stop us from voting, or at least shepherding in this into the places they want us to be. Walk us through what's going on in Georgia right now, if you don't mind, Congresswoman.
So, I think it starts with looking at the big picture here and everything that people are going through. What folks have not asked for are new voting maps. People have asked for lower gas prices, more affordable housing. They've asked for their healthcare costs to be lowered. Nobody has been out here saying, can I get some of them new maps that y'all been passing around? None of that is happening. But you see, they're not giving the people what they need and what they want, but all of a sudden we didn't have time. The session ended, the regular session ended, and they couldn't get any of the work done on behalf of Georgians to get affordability under control. But all of a sudden, when Donald Trump's Supreme Court says that, it's open season on fair representation, then they're like Elmer Fudd, and it is time to go on getting some new maps and pushing forward with warp speed for racism. And that is what we're seeing right now. Because, and if you think back to Texas, they told the people of Texas that your maps, they might not be constitutional, these new maps and the redistricting, but we can't do anything about it because it's too close to an election. Voting hadn't started, nothing, but we can't change the lines because it's too close to the election. But now here we are, and you look at Louisiana, they literally just said, oh, forget it, that your election was scheduled for May 16th. We just going to delay it and keep things moving to get you new lines. Same thing in Alabama, whose election for congressional seats was supposed to be tomorrow, along with Georgia. They said, oh, nope, you know what? We're just going to put a pause on that because racism trumps fair representation all day, every day when it comes to the Supreme Court and these southern states. So then we're seeing the same thing play out here in Georgia, but they, took it a little step further to make sure that they were trying to play the game and said, well, these maps are going to go into place for 2028. But the fact still remains that they're redrawing the lines, and not just for congressional seats, but also our state house seats. Now, mind you, I've only been in Congress for 3 terms, and I've had 3 different districts already. I am in a district now that was just redrawn 2 years ago, mandated by federal courts so that we could have fair representation. And now here we go again, because I guess they don't care what those federal courts said just 2 years ago. So right now, a lot of people are talking about this as a Southern issue because it is playing out more prominently here in the South, and talking about it as a Black issue because Black representation is what's under attack. But when it comes down to it, even if you don't care about how many Black people are in Congress, if you care about a Democratic majority, if you care about lowering costs, if you care about reproductive freedom, if you care about affordability across the board, then you care about what is happening here in the Deep South and across the country with Black representation, because it impacts all of that. So I have been fortunate to have so many colleagues that have been stepping up outside of my CBC colleagues to make sure that they are standing with us. I serve in this seat right here in Atlanta that was held by the late Congressman John Lewis. And so I channel his energy and I channel everything that he did to open up the door for me to even serve here. And what we know is that it wasn't until the cameras put a spotlight on what was happening in Selma, in Montgomery, and in the South. And that is when things started to change. So we got to keep organizing. We got to keep the conversation up. We've got to keep having shows like this to bring attention to what is actually happening and telling the truth. Because what you'll hear is this other narrative that, well, who said anything about not being fair? But it's a bunch of crap, because at the end of the day, if you are willing to just say, because of partisanship, you can do whatever you want, when you know that looking around party lines at most Southern states is synonymous with race, then that tells you everything that you need to know. When you are willing to say that Alabama should not have not even one Black member when 33% of the state's population is Black, then that tells you everything that you need to know. So I'm a country girl. I grew up in rural Alabama, and I think they're going to get into this posture here in Georgia where we had a saying that pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, and they're going to mess around, and we're going to have some competitive seats here in Georgia, and we're going to pick up some seats that they weren't ready to fight for, because I stay ready and I'm ready to fight.
I know that's right. Listen, I'm glad you shouted out Alabama. Shout out to Talladega, by the way. I know that's in your heart. My mama's from Opelika, right there across there from Columbus, where you know very well. Columbus, Georgia. That's what I'm saying. I already know. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, in fact, I hope we can speak a moment here, because there's been a lot of conversation about the United States Congress and the Senate races. But you, of course, as a former member of the state legislature, you've already laid out why it's important at the state and local level for people to get out and vote. Now, I saw some comments by your former colleague, Harold Jones, saying this is going to hurt all the people, the working class people, the billionaires are going to press down. Right. And another of your former colleagues, Carolyn Hughley out of Columbus, said, okay, since we're going to have a special session, and we saw what happened in Tennessee, with the Justins. We saw what happened in Louisiana as people were testifying. Why is it important when they call this special session for people to show up and enter the record? And can that help us in terms of really trying to galvanize us and energize us at these hearings that will be held?
Oh, absolutely, because they think they're slick about all of this stuff, and they think they're going to be able to do it in the dark. They're going to try and rush this session through. So we're going to need to keep it on repeat that this special session starts on June 17th at 2 p.m. Be at the state capitol to make your voices heard. And I know that they're going to try and intimidate people and try to get you to stay quiet. I was arrested in the state capitol while I was serving as a state senator. I remember, because I was standing with constituents that wanted to be heard. So we know the intimidation tactics, but this is our modern day civil rights movement. So it is our time to step up and find a way to get in the way. So when you show up, you got to pack out the committee rooms to make sure that they know that we're not just sitting here and allowing this to happen silently, quietly. We have to bring attention to what is happening in these rooms that they think they're going to do behind closed doors. And imagine this, they've called a 3-day special session. It starts on June 17th. They'll go June 18th, and June 19th is when they're proposing that they're going to pass these maps. They are going to diminish Black representation in the cradle of the civil rights movement right here in Georgia, the district that was represented by John Lewis, the birthplace of Dr. King. They're going to do this on Juneteenth. Imagine that. That's how much we mean to them. That's how much Black representation means to them. And we cannot be silent while it happens.
No question. Well, I agree with your colleague, Hakeem Jeffries, on this. The idea that, as you said, y'all think y'all gerrymandering, but y'all about to mess around and create a dummy mander if we get out there and vote our numbers. That's so right. That's a beautiful thing. In fact, we just got to get out there and make it happen. Dr. Omekongo Dibinga, any questions for Congresswoman Nikema Williams?
First of all, Representative Williams, we're just so happy that you are there carrying on the legacy of Representative Lewis in all of your fire and spirit and energy. We've been talking about all aspects of what's happening in the South tonight, but we haven't spent much time talking about corporations. What are you hearing as it relates to corporate responses? I mean, we saw with Georgia a few years ago and they're moving the All-Star game and things like that. Are you hearing any support from anybody in the corporate spaces as it relates to support for protecting voting rights?
So, it's been eerily quiet. And we're going to get through this primary tomorrow. And once we start seeing what these maps are going to look like, we need corporations to stand with us. Atlanta has had a history of people stepping up and making their voices heard. And we've had a history of corporations here, especially our homegrown companies that have stood up for civil rights and stood up for voting rights. And so as we get through this primary tomorrow and the special session is looming, then we are going to be calling on people to stand with us, because this is about fairness. This is about democracy. This is about fair representation. It's not about Democrats or Republicans as our president and as our governor would like for you to think. That's not what this is about. This is about fair representation, and we need every company that counts on Black dollars and Black businesses to stand with Black voices and Black voters.
Indeed. Thank you, Dr. Okongo. Thelma Anderson, questions, comments for Sister Nikema Williams.
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Representative Williams. First of all, I want to say thank you for good trouble. Thank you for always getting in good trouble for the betterment of us. The question that I do have for you on the side of these special sessions that are coming up in June, and speaking to the individuals that are going to come, how important it is for them to make their claims known and their issues known for this special session and these redrawn of the maps that is taking away representation for minorities, specifically African Americans, and how creating that record could eventually be used to show intent, because they redefine what intent is. And we know intent ain't never been used the way that the Supreme Court has used it now. So can you speak to individuals who are coming on why it's important for them to use their voice to let these individuals know that this is not okay?
So I think that goes back to how I remind people that we have to fight this in Congress. We have to continue to introduce legislation so that we can get this new civil rights bill passed and get the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act passed into law. That's how we fight in Congress. But we also have to fight this in courts. And that's where this record comes in and the community comes in. The community has to show up so that we have a record to take to court to show what is happening, what these lines mean, and pointing out all of the things that they're going to try to sweep under the rug and do behind closed doors. It is incumbent upon voters to show up, use their voice, to ask the right questions, to make the right points, so that we have a record to go to court with, to remind them exactly what they were doing and try to create this narrative. Because this new decision, while it didn't say, well, we're going to get rid of the Voting Rights Act, it made it much harder to prove that someone was doing anything with racial intent. So we're going to have to make sure that we are doing even more to jump through these hurdles to prove that we were discriminated against and our representation was impacted. So showing up, making sure that you put the questions on the record, make the points on the record, it's critically important as we can continue to fight this in the courts, in Congress, and in the community.
So critically important. And thank you for raising that, Thelma, and for answering it in that way. Representative Williams was talking with the director of the John Lewis Center at Fisk earlier this last week, Sekou Franklin. He was making the point that it isn't just about raising your voice in these hearings. It's about entering the record so that these judges can't say that nobody pushed back. That's a critical tactical point. Representative Williams, we know you're on the clock, so we let you go. Next time, I hope we'll get a chance to have you talk about your great aunt. I would love to hear you talk about Arthurine Lucy, because indeed, what runs through your veins is cold blood. If y'all don't know who Arthurine Lucy is, you look her up. Representative Williams gonna come back and talk about her, and y'all got some homework. So
we got a lot to talk about, because the way they're trying to destroy the Department of Education to get rid of the protections that Black people have had, just so that we could go to schools of our choice, and what my aunt went through to integrate not just the University of Alabama, but public institutions of higher learning across this country. It is the time that we're in right now is so reminiscent of everything that she fought for and why we must continue to do this work. And we cannot be silent in pushing back and doing it.
Absolutely. And the University of Alabama needed to be integrated. And that does not move away the fact that Arthurine Lucy came out of Miles College. So let's be crystal clear about that HBCU background, no question. So
Selma first. Selma, and then...
Oh, that's right. Selma University. That's right. Come on now. Double barrel HBCU. No question. Representative Nikema Williams, it's really a pleasure.
University of Alabama for her master's degree.
Exactly. And now, is it true she and her daughter graduated the same day?
Yes. So my cousin Grazia, she actually went to undergrad at the University of Alabama, and Auntie Atharine finally walked across the stage. Was it 91? With Grazia to...
Wow.
Grazia got her undergrad degree.
Because they had put her out.
Yes, they expelled her. So they overturned the expulsion, and she walked across the stage with Grazia.
You know what? Black women are undefeated. And we add your name is on that list as well. So, Representative Nikema Williams, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you join us again soon. And we're gonna keep up the good fight. The 17th of June, right?
17th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
We got work to do.
No question. Thank you. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Yes, ma'am. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back here on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey everybody, I'm T.D. Jakes, and I want to encourage you to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered. It'll blow your mind.
For headlines with Brittany Noble.
Effort is currently underway to contain a growing Ebola outbreak. Starting this week, the U.S. government is evoking Title 42, a public health law used during the COVID-19 pandemic to restrict entry for some travelers coming from affected regions. The World Health Organization has officially declared the outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and neighboring Uganda a global public health emergency, following reports of hundreds of suspected cases and more than 100 possible deaths. Health officials indicate that the outbreak is being driven by the rare strain of Ebola, which currently has no approved vaccine or treatment available. The CDC states that the immediate risk to the United States remains low. Doctors emphasize that Ebola spreads through direct contact with bodily fluids, and symptoms may include fever, muscle pain, rash, and internal bleeding. Well, male access to the abortion pill mifepristone can continue for now. On Thursday, the Supreme Court temporarily set aside a lower court order that had blocked abortion providers from prescribing the widely used drug through telehealth and mailing it to patients. Well, the Supreme Court's unsigned decision ensures that patients nationwide will continue to have broad access to the drug while litigation is still ongoing, challenging the Food and Drug Administration's relaxed policy for obtaining mifepristone. The state of Louisiana brought this case. Conservative justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas both dissented from the decision. The order came after a federal appellate court earlier this month reinstated an FDA rule requiring that mifepristone be dispensed in person. Two pharmaceutical companies that manufacture the drug, Danco Laboratories and GenBio Pro, both expressed concerns that the ruling caused confusion and chaos for patients, abortion providers, and pharmacies. They urged the Supreme Court to block the lower court's decision and allow patients to continue to obtain the pills by mail. Well, a black teen from Indianapolis has his name cleared after body cam footage contradicted police claims that he pointed out a gun at officers. 18-year-old Dylan Brewer was arrested on April 12th following a traffic stop where an Indianapolis police officer accused him of threatening her. The arresting officer, Sergeant Robin Frazier, wrote in her report that Brewer pointed a revolver at her and made a gesture as if he pulled the trigger, although the gun did not fire. The following day, the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department posted on Facebook alleging that Brewer had attempted to fire the revolver. Well, just 4 days later, the Marion County Prosecutor's Office dismissed the case after reviewing the body cam footage and concluding that there was no evidentiary problems. Even after the charges were dropped, Indianapolis police maintained that Brewer had pointed a gun at an officer, and in a statement to the local media on April 17th. However, this narrative quickly fell apart after police publicly released the body cam video, and a judge reportedly granted the defense's motion to dismiss all charges, stating that body-worn camera footage does not support the allegations in the probable cause affidavit. And controversy surrounding a high school play with a slavery theme on Chicago's South Side has resurfaced following the release of video recording by NBC5. In February of 2025, students at Carver Military Academy performed Journey Back to America as part of the school's Black History Month programming. Well, the play, written by a faculty member, depicts slavery and includes a slave auction scene in which Black students were cast as the chattel, while Hispanic students took on the roles of the auctioneers and the buyers, with audience members even participating in the bidding. The performance drew immediate criticism from teachers, parents, and the public, but the complaints were reportedly overlooked. The recently published video has sparked renewed questions about the appropriateness of the play for students. One of North Carolina's oldest historically Black colleges and universities is facing significant financial challenges and is now dealing with new damage due to a break-in. According to police reports, a group of individuals broke into vacant dormitories in St. Augustine's University campus on May 9th and threw furniture out of the windows. Well, this incident happened as the Raleigh-based university navigates bankruptcy and the loss of its accreditation. And recently, the school filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a decision that leaders say is intended to help recognize its finances while continuing its operations. Court records indicate that the university owes between $50 million and $100 million to creditors, and school officials have stated that these financial difficulties are making it challenging to secure the campus following the break-in. The cost of boarding up the broken windows is estimated at around $4,000, while repairing the fencing could cost about $10,000, expenses that the university cannot cover without borrowing more money. During this last week's bankruptcy hearing, a judge approved an emergency $200,000 loan to help the university address immediate needs through June. Southern University Baton Rouge, Louisiana, honored a Black college student who died in an alleged fraternity hazing incident by awarding him a degree during Friday's graduation ceremony. 20-year-old Caleb Wilson died after he was punched in the chest multiple times while pledging the Omega Psi Phi fraternity in February of last year. His mother and sister accepted the degree on his behalf. Following a moment of silence, Wilson's name was read aloud, which was met with supportive cheering and applause from the audience. At the time of his death, Wilson was a junior studying mechanical engineering. Kyle Thurman, Isaiah Smith, Caleb McCrae, Winston Sanders, and Jaden Landrum are all facing charges of manslaughter and felony hazing. Soul and blues legend Clarence Carter has passed away at the age of 90. He died on Wednesday from complications related to pneumonia. According to his management team, born blind in Montgomery, Alabama, Carter became one of the most prominent voices in Southern soul music, known for his hits such as Patches, Slip Away, Backdoor Santa, and Strokin'. He recorded most of his significant work at Fame Studios and played a key role in defining the sound of Southern Black soul music during the 1960s and 70s. Carter was briefly married to fellow singer Candy Staton, and they did have a son together, Clarence Carter Jr., before divorcing in 1973. His music and storytelling has left a lasting impact on generations of Black artists and fans all around the world.
Thank you, Brittany. And be sure, everyone, to watch The Breakdown with Brittany Noble on the Black Star Network Monday through Friday at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, we got one more story before we close out for the evening. An ICE agent is facing several assault charges related to a shooting incident involving 2 Venezuelan immigrants in Minnesota that occurred in January. Christian Castro has been charged with 4 counts of second-degree assault and 1 count of falsely reporting a crime in connection with the non-fatal shooting of Venezuelan immigrant Julio Cesar Sosa Celis in Minneapolis on January 14th. According to Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, Castro allegedly fired through the front door of a residence while 4 adults and 2 children were inside. The gunfire struck Sosa Celis in the leg, with the bullet eventually lodging in a child's bedroom wall. Initially, the Department of Homeland Security claimed that Sosa Celis had fled from a traffic stop and was pursued, ultimately being shot after allegedly attacking a broom with a broom and shovel, whatever. However, video evidence and witness accounts contradicted this narrative, showing that no such assault occurred. In February, the Justice Department dropped the charges against Julio. Well, no surprises there. Either of you have any thoughts about this case?
Well, I mean, now there's charges. I mean, I'm just and only on this. I mean, I'm thinking Alex Preddy. I'm thinking Renee Nicole Good. I'm thinking Keith Porter. I'm thinking Severio Gonzalez in Chicago. The last 3 of the 4 I just mentioned, were all caught on camera. And so what's the deal as it relates to this? And so that's where I'm skeptical about all of this that's going on. It sounds like the person who did the shooting is Latino. I think the other officers, may have been white. I don't know if that plays into that. I don't have all of their names or remember all of their faces. But I mean, there are literally like hundreds of charges, assault charges, that could be filed against all of these officers. And so I'm really interested to see where this is going to go, because especially with this DOJ, they don't give a damn about any of this. So I find this very interesting.
No question. Thelma?
Listen, it doesn't surprise me that we are in a dysfunctional criminal justice system right now. To have an individual who lies, fabricates evidence, and you don't think that that's enough on that issue to bring charges, and months later, now charges are being brought. This is the problem that we're having with the DOJ. That is the reason why the state, if you are in a blue state and these ICE agents are committing crimes, it's time to bring them to the state. Stop relying on the department, the DOJ, to bring charges, because they've already said that these people are above the law. So when these individuals are coming into the states, it's time for these district attorneys, these attorney generals, to put belt to ass on these individuals and bring charges for them causing the loss of life. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, these people have free reins to go around and terrorize and kill Americans.
Yes. Belt to ass. That is exactly right. Come on now. This is where we get warrior attorneys. Now, I'm sure we're in graduation season. Of course, we're in the corridor now. I think on McCongo, y'all got out first of the month, right? Y'all kind of early with your graduation. And
May 7th was the day, the move out day. So
move out day, yeah, y'all got out. So I mean, between now and probably this time next month, when the high school seniors get their degrees, it's just been wonderful. I've seen some great commencement speeches over the arc of the last couple of weeks. Delroy Lindo at Fisk really just brought tears to my eyes when they gave him that honorary degree and he spoke. Saw MC Light at Bennett College this past weekend. Chris Paul, as he said, at Morehouse. Work Done spoke at Morris Brown College. Morris Brown, strong. They had theirs. Debbie Allen today at Clark Atlanta. And Spelman yesterday, Simone Sanders Towson. Shout out to Ashe Kelsey, who graduated along with I think a record number there at Spelman. Either of you have any good graduation wishes? You got friends, families walking across stages in this season that you want to raise up and lift?
Well, my daughter's graduating from high school, on June 4th.
Oh, there we go. Has she picked where she's going after that?
She's off to her first choice, University of Chicago.
Oh, wow. U of C. I hear you. All right. Out there, over there on the Great White Way over there on the south side. That's what we're talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thelma, anybody around you, friends, family, any folks you want to?
Well, I don't have any friends or family that have graduated, but I do want to send a special shout out to all HBCU graduates, especially South Carolina State University, for holding it down for our ancestors and showing up and making their voices heard and known, to where now they were able to have their choice of speaker and not the wrong choice coming to bless them into their new life as graduates. But congratulations to all HBCU graduates, and get ready. We're going to need you come November.
No question. That is a beautiful way for us to pause for the evening, because you're right. Shout out to Bulldog Nation. They did that thing. There's no question about it. They weren't going to let nobody stand up and talk over them that they didn't want talking over them. Morehouse School of Medicine protested too. They had a white nationalist congressman speak, but he got an MD from Morehouse School of Medicine because he at least had the good sense to do that. But that's all right, MSM. We hold with your students. We know y'all didn't like it, and it's over now, and we're going to try to vote him out anyway so that won't happen again. So, well, thanks, everybody, and always thanks to all the crew in the booth, because you all make this happen. We couldn't do it without you. Remember to support the Black Star Network and Roland Martin Unfiltered, and there you see on the screen all the ways you can do it. All the young people, you can just get that QR code, and all the folks like me who mail stuff, you got the address as well. We talked about it earlier. So we will be back tomorrow, more footage from what happened in Alabama, and the conversation will continue. In Roland Martin's words, holla.